Hi, everyone. Really excited today to be with James, Sauce Shop founder, owner, phenomenal guy. Phenomenal. We've spoken a few times in the past. So, James, just quickly tell us a little bit about Sauce Shop and a quick, brief history.
So Sauce Shop was an idea that my wife Pam and I had back in 2014 for making tastier, sort of cleaner sauces. It started in our home kitchen and a market stall in West Bridgford in Nottingham.
Mm.
And over that time, we've grown from sort of making 5 litres at a time to 1,000 litre batches that we make now. And the business got 45 people in the team. We work with every major supermarket. Um, and yeah, we've gone to 5 million turnover last year from that sort of humble beginning as a market store
Wow,
business.
well done.
We're all about flavor, and we've kept with those starting principles of ingredients you'd use in the home kitchen. The products look homemade, they taste homemade, and yeah, we're scaling up craft sauce.
And how many bottles a week are you making? It's some number.
I think it's about 80 to 90,000.
No way.
So we operate 5 days a week. So we've
Mhm.
got the flex that we could be a 7 day operation
Right.
at this point. But yeah, we do 5 days a week and
Mhm.
it's 20,000 a day.
Mhm. So let's get straight into it. I'm a producer. I'm making a reasonable amount of product. I'm supplying maybe 8 or 10 shops, and I'm thinking about supplying the supermarkets. What, what are your, tell me everything you know.
I mean, my initial reaction to that is too early. Um, so I can sort of equate it to our journey, and you were part of that because you helped us sort of go beyond local markets and local deliveries. So we were working with you, we were working with a couple of distributors, Cotswold Fair being quite a sizable one, and sort of between starting in 2014 to 2017, we got to maybe in excess of 400 farm shops and delis around the country. We were listed with Ocado. We were supplying Dobbies. We were doing quite a bit online as well through Amazon, our own website, and we were doing a bit of restaurant business. So we think by 2017 we were turning over about £100,000 as a business. Tiny, absolutely tiny still. And that's when we got our Sainsbury's listing, which was three products in 170 stores, which is also a tiny listing. And we were four people in the business then. There was me and Pam. Pam was on maternity leave, and Pam's brother, Ali, and his friend Nathan. So it was effectively just the three of us, and that was the business as it was then. And even that now in hindsight, I know that was too early for us because we got into Sainsbury's and the products just didn't sell because we were just too unknown. And that's even off the back of being in a few hundred stores, doing shows all around the country. I think we'd probably done Taste of London by then and stuff like that. So we were getting our name out there. But you just have to have such a big ready-made customer base to make it work in the supermarkets. Or you need very, very deep pockets to spend on mass sort of advertising to get people who don't know who you are into the supermarkets to buy your product. That's that would be my sort of initial sort of thoughts on that. But yeah, the logistics side is probably that's a major factor. So back then, I think it's sort of almost it seems silly because the quantities are quite small compared to the business that we've got now. But I reckon we had to get 12 pallets of stock to Sainsbury's for that initial listing. And that took the three of us probably 3 weeks to make non-stop. And it meant a couple of all-nighters. Literally, I slept in the unit twice in the run-up to supplying that Sainsbury's because it was just like work until really, really late and then have a quick sleep and get up and then just get cooking again because we were doing 200 kilo batches at that point, and that's a lot of 200 kilo batches to make all that sauce. Um, and then from a supply chain point of view, it's quite handy, and we still do this with Sainsbury's. They've got like a consolidator. I think we've done that with you before back in the days of Whole Foods. So like you got stock sat in a warehouse, and when the customer needs it, they just call it off. But instead of it being cases, it's pallets. So we we would have had maybe 6 pallets of stock of those three lines, sort of always sat ready, so that as soon as Sainsbury's needed another one, they could call it off. And I mean, it's sort of it's nice and easy, but it still means you've got to have enough cash that you can lay down 6 pallets of stock in the beginning. And probably nowadays with Sainsbury's, that's more like 20 to 30 because of the throughput, and we've got extra lines with them. And then now we're also with pretty much every other supermarket. So they order generally, I think it's day one for day 5 delivery. So there's not time to make the products to order. So nowadays we've got a core range which is probably 6 or so products which are in most of the supermarkets, and we just have to have pallets and pallets of those items ready. Like they're literally like picking a bottle off the racking for an online order, but you send the forklift and you just pick a few pallets and get them ready for the delivery. So you've got to have a lot of space. There's probably 40 or 50 pallets of stock that's just sat waiting for supermarkets to sort of order it from us. Um, and yeah, we probably have 200 or 300 grand's worth of finished goods stock in our business now, and that's really tight for the size of business we are, because we keep things really tight because we can't actually afford to lay down loads more stock to make life easier. So it means that we chop and change the production a bit to make sure we've got everything in stock. And then so we've got Nathan, he's still here, so he's now planning and forecasting, making sure that we have got the stock, looking at sort of previous orders and demand. We've got Mike, our commercial guy, who's managing the relationships, like the promotional plan, make sure all the buyers are happy with us, because it's a full-time job just looking after the supermarkets from a relationship point of view. And yeah, I mean, I guess nowadays we probably sell about, probably, I reckon it's in the region of 30,000 units a week is going through the supermarket. So it's a fair chunk of our production. It's nearly half. So that we're diversified. We've got stuff going elsewhere. And then you've also got in logistics, you've just got another person who's on just deliveries and booking in deliveries, hauliers, delivery notes, make sure everything's done right, right products delivered to the right place at the right time. And that the logistics is the easy bit. The hard bit is the sales, because so you've got a metric that you're measured on, which is rate of sale, and that's how many units you sell per week divided by the number of stores that you're ranged in. So if you've got 400 stores, you're selling 400 units a week, that's a rate of sale of 1. When we started in Sainsbury's, we were sub 1 on our rate of sale, and that's a dangerous place to be, because essentially you're not selling enough to justify your space on the shelf. And yeah, so we just knew we were under pressure. We put ourselves under pressure because you just have to get those numbers higher, and there's a need to continually have them growing. There's no stagnation, because if your sales have plateaued, then a buyer's naturally going to think, well, this has reached its limit. So is there something else that I could put in that's going to sell more and make me more money for those few centimeters of shelf space? Because they're a business. They just want to sell products. They're no different to a farm shop or deli. They've got to make sales, cover their overhead, and make some money. So we were fortunate because Sainsbury's took a chance on us, and I think my greatest bit of advice, because we've also gone into retailers and been delisted. We've been delisted from Tesco in Ireland. We've been delisted from Morrison's and relisted. If you haven't got the retailer buy-in that they're going to give you the time required, it's a non-starter. I think you want to have probably a 2-year commitment on the listing, because anything less than that, and it's just so hard. You either need to have this ready-made customer base, which a brand's just not likely to have that early in their journey, or you need to have very deep pockets to do a lot of really great marketing. And it's not just deep pockets, it's the know-how, because you can easily waste a lot of money on marketing that just does absolutely nothing. It's a very dark art, and it's something that we agonize over in our business constantly, and Pam and I butt heads over it like every week pretty much, over what's the best thing to do, where should we spend our money, what works, what doesn't. So yeah, and our real break was that Sainsbury's did see something in us, and we were invited to their accelerator, their future brands program, and we sat in that for years. I don't think we left it until 2022. So we were sort of under this umbrella of protection where they believed in us, and we were growing. They let us change the products because the products weren't right. They let us experiment with different flavors and things like that. So that meant that we had sort of four years of growing and sort of leeway to really get things right. And it was only once we got to a certain size with them and were interested to explore other retailer listings that we sort of left that program. And by that point, I think we were doing over £1 million in sort of retail value by then, so like sales value. So we were effective. We were a brand. We were a brand in the market with some traction. But yeah, that's a 5-year journey before we even sort of took that second listing and risked it.
Wow. So I do this when I'm playing tennis. I start watching the game and forget I'm supposed to hit the ball. So just when you talk about marketing things like that, is there help, or is that they just expect you to do it all on your own, or?
Um, uh, so with the retailers, you can spend money in store, and that is probably the best place to spend it in the beginning. So it's a bit like in a farm shop having a poster on the wall saying this is Source Shop. I mean, we used to do that. We used to send
Yeah.
little cards that people could put on the shelves and stuff, and that'll have an impact, like a bit of communication. But to do that in the supermarkets at scale, it's very costly. I imagine they make some good money from all that media, but it is effective because you've got shoppers are there, they're right at that point of purchase. So if you've got a barker or a shelf label introducing a new brand, a promotion is sort of the best way to get a quick uplift, but it doesn't necessarily long term build a customer base. But yeah, they with Sainsbury's we got some really good help with that, like free barkers and things like that, because we're on their incubator. And then nowadays, I guess we're treated more like a bigger brand. So you can kind of say, hey, we've got this budget. What can you do as a package? Say like you're going in and saying, well, we've got £20,000 we could spend on media this year. What can you do for us? And they'll put together maybe a bit of a deal because they see that you're a small brand and they'll chuck in a couple of things. But yeah, it can be stuff like features in the magazines, Sainsbury's Waitrose magazine, Barker's. We did aisle fins in Morrison's, which is
Oh,
quite an
well.
expensive experiment where they're sort of like on the aisles. There's the online side. You can use it on the like online pay per click on the retailer website as well, which is quite effective. And then there's like the sort of out of store stuff, which is just there's a plethora of options, and you never really know what's
Well,
working.
I've written about it a few times, even in the farm shops, you to be the number one choice when the customer's looking to buy, to me, seems to be the best place to spend money in that department
Mm,
anyway. Trying to talk
yeah,
to somebody, on a bus in Tooting, to me,
yeah, that's
just
for a very long way down the journey of sort of growing a brand.
nice. So, not sort of what would the advice be, but what were the big stress points, if that's a fair, the sort of bordering on mental health and, why are we doing this? It's just a bit of a vague question.
Yeah. I mean, the most stressful points of our journey overall were just when we not had enough money to continue, not making profit or gross margin not being high enough, and sort of having to either raise debt or raise equity funding. There's been a few sort of hairy points in the business where
Mm.
it's been like, oh, I don't know if we're going to make it. The next few weeks is going to be really touch and go.
Right.
Um, but in the supermarkets themselves, I mean, getting a D list is just soul crushing, and we've had that a few times. And even when Sainsbury's, who are our sort of longest standing retailer, they say, "Oh, this one product out of 10 isn't really working. We're going to delist it." It's still like dagger to the heart, like, "Oh no, one of them's been taken out." So every little delist or loss of distribution does hurt, but um, I think just it's the pressure of knowing the sales need to be higher and not having the sort of levers to pull to
Mhm.
change it.
Right.
Just doesn't happen quickly.
Mhm. I think that's an interesting point because, if you're in a farm shop or in 50 farm shops, you can lose a farm shop, you can find a farm shop, You know, you can go to 35, you can go up to 47. You know, you've always got control. It always fascinates me, people in hairdressers that have to, I see them in Frome, they have to sit there and wait for somebody to come through the door. You can't go out and
Yeah.
get people to come in, and you can't stand in the street and say, I think you need a haircut. Come into my shop, that'll be £15. Whereas you can with the independents, you know, if you need a few more sales, but you know, lifting the sales rate in Sainsbury's, you know, could almost have a negative cost.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because it's longer term, it'll pay off. But that's why I say deep pockets, because
Mm.
a campaign that would actually move the dial. I mean, we've not even got into that territory, but you're talking probably £1 million sort of level
Mm.
of marketing campaign that's going to really make a difference. And then the payback is that might sort of build you a new customer base that sticks with you for years to come.
Mm.
But yeah, the upfront cost is huge.
Interesting. I mean, it is. I mean, so just fascinating, just fascinating. So the amount of food producers that are in the industry versus the number of food producers that are in supermarkets, is it just because it's the sales rate, it's the marketing, it's all the unknown costs that people go into it without realizing?
I think so. I think yeah, I think so few seem to manage to hang on to the listings, the distribution. A lot seem to get a chance. Um, I'm not sure. I feel like we've just been really lucky. We've just sort of just just gone for it and worked really hard and fought to keep it. That I guess there was a time when a lot of the retailers did lots of listing small brands, like Sainsbury's had the Taste of the Future Bay and I
Yeah.
think the others, where they tried loads of new stuff, but then I guess um we hit a cost of living
Mm.
crisis, didn't we? And all that sort of stuff. It's a cost to the retailer uh, at the end of the day. If they've got stuff in store that's not moving, that's slow moving stock on their balance sheet, and they want to get that stuff sold. So I think they've become um, a lot more cautious on listing new brands. But
Mm.
yeah, I guess it's just really hard to hang on to the listing and make it work.
But also, it's the, I mean, I've done a few walk arounds in the supermarkets, you know, and it's you've got to take a name. You know, you can't just turn up and say, you know, I've got this small company, we're doing really well, all my friends and family love
Mm.
it, we sell really well at farmers markets. You know, do you want to stock it? You know, and if you look at the brands that are in the supermarkets, they nearly all are high street names.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, you've got to take a compelling sort of argument as to why it's going to sell. Like what's the trend that you're tapping into? What are consumers interested in that problem that sort of product solves that problem for them? Um, and something that I know you talk about a lot is getting the price point right because we I think we when we first listed in Sainsbury's we were 350 on the retail price, which is pretty high. And that was 2017. So in the 8 years that passed, we've managed to get that down to 280 through a lot of economies of scale, automation, never hitting the product quality, just investing in every way possible to sort of make that product better but cheaper
Mhm.
through better buying, less labor, and price is one of the biggest differentiators of what will make it and what won't. Because if all our products were 350 still, they just wouldn't be selling enough, and we wouldn't have kept hold of our listings because the sales just wouldn't have been there.
It's fascinating. I mean, again, I walk around the supermarkets and just looking at and I know all the retail prices in the independents and the prices in the supermarket. I mean, it's such a big difference, you know, such a big gap. And to get that done, but you guys have absolutely smashed it. I mean, to take 3 gold stars on the buffalo sauce and still be in the supermarket, I think I mean, it's phenomenal. You know, not many people could do that. You look at Aldi's next big thing, you know, that you just reduce the quality until you hit a price point that
Mm.
it will sell, but then it's not what people originally started making. It's not the original artisan product.
No, no. Yeah, and we've done that through just
Mm.
scale up and making big batches, but always just being really focused on quality. I
Yeah.
think it I think it helped that Pam and I we used to do new product development in manufacturing, and so I often spend time in the factory examining recipes, looking at how we're doing things, like asking why it's taking 3 hours to make this batch, and finding out there's some sort of quirk in production. And it's like, well, I'm sure we can do something to solve that, like from a methodology point of view, or can we swap from this supplier to this supplier, and that's going to stop that problem. So there's there's a way round. And I'm a big advocate of self-manufacturing because it means that you've got that flexibility. Like if you've just got a co-packer and a price, it's very hard to change that price. But in our business, like we can examine everything, the supply of every ingredient, and we've got probably a couple of hundred different things that we're buying that you can put out to tender to get better pricing or find an alternative. You can change the process,
Mhm.
like even rearranging the shifts and things like that to
Yeah,
work
yeah.
out how can we fit another batch in a day because that gets the cost down.
I remember when I was at Patchwork, we were buying the pate foils in tin foil trays, and I phoned up. We were buying them like half a pallet off this company, and I thought I'd phone the people that make it and ask them, if we could get a better price, and they said, yeah, you just need to take a container load. And I was like, actually, where we're buying them is fine, thank you very much. I went a bit too far. So just to finish up, so I know we've covered a lot here, but if you were giving some advice to somebody with a small, medium-sized business that's got that as a goal, what would be the key things to look at rather than, I just want to be in a supermarket because it makes me look good with my friends and family?
So I think really, really great like financials in the business, the margins, knowing the margins, knowing the manufacturing costs. We were talking before the call that
Mm.
one of our biggest focuses right now is the cost of a manufactured product because we've got the cost that we think it should be on an Excel document, and then at the end of the week when you made all those bottles, what the actual cost was, the material consumption, the labor, and it's the bigger you get, the harder it is to track. So I think having really good discipline at the start probably sets you off well to sort of scaling in the right way. So really good handle on the finances and being profitable because we spent many years chasing revenue growth to try to get profitable. And that was quite sort of hair raising at times and meant taking on loans, equity funding, everything that we needed to survive. And we could have probably just gone a bit slower and a bit more considered if we'd have just got the profitability right at the start.
Mhm. Fascinating. James, yeah, it's a huge mindset change as well, isn't it? It's a proper business. I mean, it's a £5 million business.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if I look at who I was at the start to now, it's like it's like living in a pressure cooker.
Mm.
Yeah, it sort of it's definitely it definitely changes you as a person because it's just relentless and you just have to adapt, learn so much, just continually sort of challenge what you're doing and yeah, work on improving things. It is
Nice.
yeah, sort of it's a make or break situation most of the
Daily,
yeah.
daily. James, listen, that's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I'm going to try and go on and do a few more of these, get back into sort of video chats with people. But I do worry that a lot of food producers see the supermarket as the end goal, when in fact a sustainable business that's supplying and generating an income for that supplier is great. But I don't think people talk enough about what, pardon the inverted commas, supplying a supermarket is really like, and I'm glad we covered some topics there.
Yeah, yeah, I guess my sort of final thought is it's it's definitely not the end goal. It's the start of a very challenging sort of journey. So
Mhm.
getting a supermarket listing, if you're really going to make the most of it, is to start of something really, really difficult. And it's funny because if you've got that independent business, you're having to sort of change your entire business. We're fortunate. We have still got a foot in the independent sector,
Yeah.
but we definitely lost a lot of custom because people see you as a supermarket brand then, and that's they don't want a brand necessarily that's in the supermarkets in their sort of nice shop full of artisan products, even though the products themselves are the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a stigma around it. I remember, so I said that we were three people at the start. There was me, Nathan, Ali, and we were trying to still get orders from our independent customers. And the amount of times we got, "Oh, you're too big now," and it's like we just look around our tiny office, the three of us, like we're too big, like we're too compared to your shop still. But just yeah, sort of how it
Fascinating.
is. So you once you're going into it, like you've got to go all in as well.
No, absolutely. Well, it's like, I mean, I mean, I write about this all the time. It's a bit like being on the start of the London Marathon. It's a 26-mile race. You can't just turn up at the beginning and then expect to be able to run the 26-mile race.
Yeah,
If you're not prepared, if you've not done the training and the discipline and the long hours and the long races leading up to the London Marathon, you're just not going to survive. And I do worry that so many people get put on the start line without
yeah,
actually any fitness,
like
for want of a better, or
preparation.
as you call it,
Yeah,
money,
yeah.
pocket. You need good lungs to run the marathon. You need deep pockets to do the supermarket. So yeah, James, listen, we're going to have to go. I can talk for days. So brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cheers,
Cheers,
buddy. See you
Mark.
soon. Bye.